In this episode, our 2023 Rolex 24 experience, virtual fuel tanks, and let's get ready for Bathurst. Welcome to episode 171 of the We Are Auto Show. What's up, Derek?
Mr. Michael Rowell, I had a long weekend.
As did I.
It was great, though.
It was fantastic.
We were at the Rolex 24.
The We Are Auto boys take on the Rolex.
We did. We'll have a quick... I'll try to edit this week, but we'll have a little compilation of some good racing video that we got there. We'll throw it up on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, we're being like racing, I don't know, what, vloggers, or what would be the correct terminology here?
I'm not really sure. It wasn't really a vlog. It was more just, here are cool race cars on said racetrack.
Yeah, I can't actually wait to go back and watch it, because it's going to be so good.
Yeah, it should be pretty good.
It's going to be awesome. But let's recap, shall we?
First, I want to get your perspective, because this is the first time that you have been to the Rolex 24.
Correct.
This is my 10th. A long time ago, I started going. How was it from your eyes, from your perspective?
Sure. Let me talk you through. So I've been to many of Sebrings, right? Sebring was always my race growing up, right? Daytona has been your race kind of in your past, but Sebring has always been my race. And it's funny how different Sebring and Daytona really are.
To start, it's a 24-hour. Sebring is a 12-hour. Daytona is 24.
Correct.
But it's way different atmosphere.
100%. What's the best way to describe the difference in atmosphere? Okay, let's see. I would say Walmart meets Target.
Okay. Walmart being Sebring?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Or, better yet, Dollar General, Target.
Yeah. I think that'd be good.
Right? Which, I love Sebring. It holds a very special place in my heart. But the Rolex is maybe a bit classier.
It's much classier. Yeah. It's kind of odd, though, because Daytona is not known for a class area.
What is Daytona known for?
Daytona is known for NASCAR.
And
Ricky Bobby.
And
Hale Dale.
Harleys, baby.
Yeah, Bike Week. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not premier sports cars from around the world.
No. Now, Sebring is well known for being... The way I talk about Sebring to people is it is a party that happens to have a race around it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Sebring is. It is just madness. For
it's
example,
chaos.
There is a fish tank, a real fish tank with real fish
yeah.
next to the track. It's a party with a race around it. Daytona is centralized around the race. The race is all around you. Because when you're in there, you're in a bowl, and you only hear the race cars around you, everywhere around you, which is really cool.
It's really cool. So my first Rolex experience was fantastic. I will say, first and foremost, it was the coldest I've ever been in my life ever.
Welcome to the Rolex.
Holy shit, man. I was not sure when I woke up Friday morning that my toes were still attached to my body.
Yep.
I slept with 2 pairs of socks on and my shoes, sweatpants, and a pair of jeans on. And luckily, my upper half, I had a t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt, a flannel, a soft shell jacket, and my ski jacket. And my bottom half was boxers, sweatpants, jeans, 2 pairs of socks, and shoes. And my bottom half was the coldest it's ever been. Mind you, I've been snowboarding in minus 10 degrees in Colorado. I've been through... I have lived in cold climates. Mm-hmm. My feet were... my legs and feet have never been as cold as they were at about 3 o'clock in the morning, Friday morning, Saturday morning, going to Saturday.
The Rolex will always hit you with weather.
How is it possible that it's that goddamn cold?
In Daytona, Florida.
Holy shit.
I don't know. This year wasn't even that bad.
Friday was bad. Saturday was great.
Compared to last year, this year was cake.
True,
because
it wasn't wet.
28 degrees at night.
God damn.
Which means your toesies would have been gone.
I think they would have frozen clean off of my body. Yes.
Lesson learned, overpack for that race.
Oh my God. I thought bringing my big ski jacket was like, oh yeah, I will brave the tundra.
You need at least 2 more layers than you think you need.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. I will say, for a race fan perspective, it is a really cool place to watch a race because there's so many different perspectives. You've got infield perspective, which is what I kind of grew up with at Sebring, right? Where you kind of wander from corner to corner and you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm watching turn 7 at Sebring. I'm watching coming through turn 2, 3, 4. That's kind of wandering the track is always what I've known. But being able to wander, and then when you say, okay, I'm kind of done wandering for a bit, let's go just get a bird's eye view on everything, and you wander up to the grandstands, that was a really, really cool way of watching the race. Because you can see every bit of track, especially from the top of the grandstands. You can see the bus stop. I mean, the Le Mans chicane. You can see the bus stop. You can see everything. You can see everything. International Horseshoe, West Horseshoe, the Kink, everything. And as a race fan, that's amazing. You can see GT cars going 3 wide around the banking, right? It's just so cool.
All the time. The view from the top of the grandstands is the best view in racing. I have no doubt.
It's really, 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 really cool. Really cool. We watched the start from the top, and that was just really awesome to watch. I mean, they had a different safety car from each manufacturer of top class. So you had a Porsche, BMW, an Acura, and a Cadillac, right? Although I have to question BMW's choice of base car.
They put a SUV out.
Weird SUV, where everyone else is like, okay, we got real sporty things.
Right, a sports car.
Yeah, but BMW's like, hey, look at our new gray SUV with a gold grill. Wow.
That's weird.
That's interesting, I guess. But man, watching the start from the grandstands, that's something you don't get at other circuits.
And you probably won't.
Yeah, and you had a real big race fan hack.
What was that?
You brought your wireless headphones, your buds, and you gave me one, so I had one free ear listening to what was happening around me, and one taken ear where I was listening to John Hindhaugh talk about the BMWs having hybrid problems. Really, really, really good way to do that. I will say, holy shit, it was busy there too.
Very.
I've heard from many different commentators and journalists and all this that it has been on record the biggest Rolex that they have ever had by a considerable margin. Not increasing by 0.01%, but many thousands more than they've ever had. And in terms of camping, my dad's been to the Rolex many times. He's obviously a big race guy as well. He was assuming that camping was still only in the infield.
No. And
I told him, I said, yeah, no, we were camped pretty well on the runway at the airport.
Yeah.
150 feet from my head was a Delta Boeing, 757 or 737?
Right.
At 6:08 in the morning.
Taking off, heading to Atlanta.
Yeah.
It was the best alarm clock ever.
It was cool. And I will say, because I'm a bit of an AV geek as well, while we came back to camp, there's a Chinook CH-47 twin-rotor helicopter just right on by.
We got to see a lot of planes land and take off.
We did. And I remember it being about 32 minutes from campsite to getting to where you can actually watch a race.
Right.
That's how many people were there. We were camped way out in the boonies.
We were.
It's great. It's wonderful.
They have a cool tram system that will bring you into the circuit where you scan your tickets, get on the train, and they'll bring you around to the International Horseshoe, which is very convenient because it saves a lot of walking. And if they didn't have that, it would be actually probably an hour walk to the racetrack.
Yeah, 45 minutes an hour walk.
Yeah.
Easy. That would have been, how many miles do you think that would have been just to walk in?
Probably
two and a half miles?
Yeah.
Just to get in.
It's a lot of walking.
It is. My toesies are sore. My piggies are sore.
It's a big circuit. But it's
amazing.
An awesome circuit. To have the audio is something that I can't explain to people.
Especially at night.
Yeah.
But we've talked about our love for racing at night. But racing at night at Daytona is even more different. Because of how how it's shaped as a coliseum in a bowl. It just kind of locks and reverberates it around.
Mm-hmm.
The audio is really, 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 really neat.
It's amazing.
Just so cool. I'm a bit hooked on Daytona.
Yeah, we kind of had it scheduled out. We caught the fireworks at 10 o'clock up in top of the grandstand, so we'll have some video of that. It's overall, this race is just amazing.
Yeah, I got to admit, in terms of amazingness, though, I have to say something about the grid walk.
What might that be?
Holy shit, look at it. It's so many people. Oh, my God. The picture we're looking at right now is, I've heard everyone, all the commentators talking about the busyness that was this grid walk.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen a grid walk this busy?
I don't think it's been this busy. It's usually busy, but that was more than I've ever seen.
We couldn't get to the cars.
No, not a chance.
Unless you were like the first person in, you were getting, this would have been like the running of the bulls in Spain where you literally were just getting trampled on to get to the cars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was cool. Sign, start, finish. That's great. Barely, as we almost lost a finger there.
But it's open to everyone. Anyone who has a ticket, as long as you know at a specified time, you can go walk on the infield at Daytona, walk the tri-oval, sign the start finish, watch the cars roll out to the grid, and then make your decision after that. They say, all right, you got to get off the grid. We got to start the race. Do you want to go up to the grandstands or do you want to go back into the infield? And you get to make that call.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
I do like that. But great racing to watch if you're not a Porsche fan.
If you're not a Porsche fan.
Yeah. When I would take my Porsche hat off and I would just put my very generic racing fan hat on, I was enamored with the racing. But if I was wearing a Porsche hat, that was abysmal performance.
You got the slap of BOP. Last year they had the side-by-side battle, had the best BOP. But you can't get it every year. I don't know what to tell you.
I agree, but you could get a little better.
No, it's a new car. IMSA said, nope, no win for you. Not a chance. But the rest of the racing was fantastic because most of the other manufacturers had very good runs.
Yeah. Acura.
Right.
Lexus, Aston.
Let's not talk about GTP yet.
I'm not talking about GTP. I'm talking about GTD.
Right. I have a lot to talk about in that sense. If you pull up the results, I believe the podium for the two GT classes were all three different manufacturers for each class, which is fantastic.
Oh, yeah, it won't let me filter by class. But let's see. So, yeah, in podium, you had GTD was an Aston. GTD Pro was a Mercedes. GTD was another Aston. GTD Pro was a Corvette. GTD Pro was a Lexus. And then GTD was a McLaren.
Right. So you had McLaren, Corvette, Aston Martin,
Mercedes.
So it's at least 4 to 5 manufacturers.
And Lexus. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 manufacturers in the top 6 across those two classes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's great.
Fantastic job. Sure, one team got shafted, but that is the way sometimes of BOP.
One and a half teams, because BMW got a bit shafted too.
A little bit, but yeah. I thought it was fantastic racing.
It was great racing to watch. I mean, as long as you weren't watching this specifically as a Porsche fan, that was fantastic.
Let's talk about do we dive into GTP?
I think we should.
Okay.
And for those, GTP is GT Prototype, Grand Touring Prototype.
Right. Quick note, though. LMP2 had an awesome finish.
Oh, my God, yes.
Side by side. One running the draft off I don't know if it was a GT or LMP3 car. I don't know. But came across the bus stop, got a good draft on the car, and it was actually super, super close. I don't know. It was like under a tenth.
It was 0.016.
Okay, so in the hundredths. Yeah. Holy moly.
1600ths.
Jeez.
Of a second.
Was the difference. So they were just photo finish across the line after 24 hours of racing, which is wild to think.
Yeah.
That is insane to think.
Yeah.
Which is a testament to the guys for balancing those perfect, and having awesome racing. But in the GTP class, let's talk about the winners first. Then we'll
Okay.
talk about the techie details that I want to have people understand, because it was fascinating how this race played out.
Okay.
So who won?
So who won? It was an Acura.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Acura, the Meyershank Racing Acura GTP, the number 60 of Tom Blomqvist, Colin Braun, Elio Castroneves, and Simon Pagino. In second place, you had another Acura, the Wayne Taylor Racing Acura, with Ricky Taylor, Felipe Albuquerque, Louis Delatraz, and Brendan Hartley. And then third place, you had a Cadillac, the 01 Cadillac, with Sebastian Bourdais, Renger van der Zande, and Scott Dixon.
And
so those are your top three.
What manufacturer?
Acura, Cadillac.
And then what was after that?
Cadillac.
Okay.
Then BMW, then no Porsches for anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. So it's basically a battle between Cadillac and Acura. We kind of called this before the start of this race.
Actually, we didn't kind of call this. I'm pretty sure we called this to the T.
But most people kind of knew that this was going to be the case.
Yeah.
BMW and Porsche were the only two brands that were bringing a absolute new car. They had not been in IMSA last year. So
correct.
New rules package, new car, completely from the ground up. Whereas Acura and Cadillac at least had some experience, and they brought over a decent chunk of tech from their old car.
Mm-hmm.
So good on them for finishing the race. We kind of expected the other two to have problems.
Yep.
Early in this race, before this race started, we were talking and debating, will an LMP2 car win? That didn't happen.
Correct.
That didn't happen by a large margin.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
Yes. That didn't happen by a very, very large margin, because that was actually how many gap difference? 783 was the lead lap of GTP. 761 was the lead lap of an LMP2.
So over 20 laps.
Yeah, 22 lap difference.
There was a question about reliability going into this race. Would all the GTPs die? Which was a reasonable question to ask, considering the new tech hybrid stuff that we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen, which is good. It's awesome to see.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's talk about some of this weird hybridness.
Okay, let's talk about it.
GTP cars have there's a couple acronyms that I'm going to teach you here. So we have VFT, which is virtual fuel tank.
VIFT.
We have a virtual fuel tank in these new cars. And we have MSE, which is maximum stint energy.
Okay.
So these cars are hybrids. They have a Bosch electric motor attached to the back of the transmission.
Okay.
They have I believe do you remember how much energy is in the hybrid? I think it's like 60 kilowatts or something. I don't remember.
In terms of the kilowatts, I don't know. I do know the maximum stint energy, but I don't remember the kilowattage.
That's okay. They have a battery, an electric battery that can be used and deployed at any point during the lap. It only has a certain amount of energy in it. And when the battery is deployed, it goes through the Bosch electric motor and supplies 40 extra horsepower for the whole car altogether. Mm-hmm. So I think the internal combustion engine is limited to 200 or 670 horsepower. Correct. Is the limit.
I believe, yeah, they're all limited to 670.
So if they were to reduce the ICE engine by 40 horsepower, then they could apply that extra 40 horsepower from the electric motor and bump you all the way back up to your full horsepower that you're allowed to have. You can't take the 670 and apply 40 on top. You have to reduce the ICE engine and then apply the electric motor on top. So if you think about it, you can save fuel, right? Mm-hmm. You could slow down the internal combustion engine a little bit, maybe throw less fuel in the engine, get your specified horsepower number, that's 40 minus its max, and then make up the extra 40 horsepower with the electric battery.
Okay.
Now you can do that anywhere in the lap, which is kind of interesting. And the driver does not have a button to push to say, I want to use this electric horsepower now.
So who deploys that electric horsepower?
The engineers are mapping where it's going to be deployed at what time on the lap.
So the driver just drives the car.
The driver just puts the pedal down, and the magic of the computers and the engineers take over, which is interesting. Now, the fuel tank in this car, in last year was the DPI, the Daytona prototype. I think it was international, right? That car had 78 liters or 20.6 gallons of fuel. This new car has 100 liters or 29 gallons. So we added about 30% to 40% fuel capacity to this new tank.
So you got more gas available.
You can hold more fuel in this car. 30 gallons is a pretty big tank.
Yeah.
The thing is, there was never a point in this race where any of these GTP cars held a full tank.
Why?
They didn't start the race with a full tank. When they fueled the cars after a pit stop, they never had a full tank. There was no point in them having a full tank of fuel.
So why give it that capacity?
Because there's what's called MSE, maximum stint energy. The maximum amount of energy you were allowed to use when you left pit road to start a racing stint, which is a session on track where you race X number of laps before you come back into the pits. They could only do 920 megajoules of energy. They could only use that much energy.
Okay.
And that was sensed by torque sensors that were on the drive shafts by the rear wheels.
Okay, so they've got these sensors in the rear drive shafts that are sensing how much energy is being dispensed at any given moment.
How much torque is being applied to the wheels, and with some math, you can deduce energy. You can turn it into megajoules. There's a maximum of 920 megajoules. If they exceeded that, it was like a 100-second penalty. If you exceeded it twice in the race, it was 200 seconds, then 300, and so on. And eventually, they would just kick you out of the race if you kept on exceeding it. So you cannot go past that 920 maximum.
Jeez.
Now, you can utilize all the fuel in your tank if you want, but if you're a smart team, you leave the electric motor in there and you reduce the amount of megajoules that you're using. So you want to accelerate quickly out of the corner using the electric motor because that is a more efficient way to burn the megajoules of energy.
Yes.
You only have X number of megajoules to burn, so you may as well use it as efficiently as possible. Mm-hmm. The battery and the electric motors are more efficient than the internal combustion engine. So where possible, you want to use the battery for efficiency purposes.
Okay.
So say you go out and you run 900 of your 920 megajoules of energy. When you come back in, you need to fill up the fuel tank with enough gas in it to be able to extract 900 joules of energy, or 920 for your next stint, between the ICE engine and the electric motors. Now, you can recharge the battery whenever you want, which is also fascinating.
What?
You could be going down the straight, recharging your battery if you want. You could be going into a braking zone, recharging the battery if you would like. You could be accelerating and recharging the battery if you would like. It's all dependent on how the engineers map it out. Yes, it is a fascinating thing as to how this energy management system is working. Now let's throw another monkey wrench into this, okay?
Okay.
At some point, you go to the pits in the middle of the night. You've burned through your 920 megajoules of energy. You have 5 gallons of fuel remaining in your 20-gallon tank or 30-gallon tank. You fill up 15 of those gallons, right? But that doesn't put you to your 30 gallons. That would only put you to 20 gallons.
Mm-hmm.
You used, let's say, 4 or 5 gallons of energy equivalently in electric motor energy. You need to somehow penalize the team, if you're from the series perspective, by slowing down the pit stop and ensuring that they get enough energy time on pit road that they get to 920 megajoules. So you could be efficiently using your fuel on track, but when you get to the pit stop, you need to wait your time out in order to get your number back to 920. It's
so
kind of
you're
interesting.
not actually putting any more. What?
You will get to the point where in the fuel nozzle, there's a proximity sensor that's actually on the car. And when the fuel nozzle is applied, it's basically counting up from the fuel or the energy that you've lost to bump you back up to that 920 mark. And when the fuel has stopped flowing, there's still, I think it's 20 megajoules a second of energy, virtual fuel tank energy, being added to the car.
Even though the fuel's actually not.
No fuel flowing. All you're doing is triggering a proximity sensor to agree that you have the fuel probe in the car. and that is filling up your virtual fuel tank.
Virtual fuel.
You have to do this because you can more efficiently extract the energy from the fuel. So that is the best way to handle this from the series perspective. You have to have a virtual fuel tank, a proximity sensor, a time of 20 megajoules a second while you're flowing fuel into the car or not, depending on the situation you're in. It's
So
all
we're pretending to fill the cars up.
At that point, you are, yes. It's a bit odd. I agree. Now, if you think about it from the car's perspective, you actually want less fuel in the car because
it's lighter. Yeah.
Right? Is it like 7.5 pounds per gallon of liquid? I think is what it is. So it's a big margin. That's a lot. If you got 10 less gallons in the car, we're talking 70 pounds. 70 pounds makes a difference in that race car. No doubt.
It does.
So that is good to know. Now, the batteries that are being used to deploy the electric energy is an MGU, is what they're called, the motor generation unit. These batteries can be charged, but generally they're charged somewhere between 30 and 90%. You never bring them down to 0, and you never bring them up to 100.
So you mean the 920 megajoules, you're only going like 90% of that?
Not quite, no. The battery itself doesn't hold all the energy. The 920 megajoules is the total stint amount of energy that you can run throughout one stint. I think that the battery itself, I don't know how many watts the battery is. I'm not sure off the top of my head. But a joule is, it's like watts over time. So it's like a watt over a minute or something like that.
Okay.
Well, as watts themselves are an instantaneous amount of energy. So it's a different unit. You have to do a conversion between them, basically. You could do watts over hours. That's a thing. But I won't go down the rabbit hole of units because that's a pain in the butt on a podcast. What you need to know here is they never brought the battery capacity up to 100%. And the reason they didn't do that is because you actually want, under braking, you want the motor in the back to basically be doing the opposite of what it normally does and to be recharging the battery.
Okay.
You want it to be recharging under braking because that's actually doing equivalently engine braking as well.
It's creating drag, essentially.
It's creating drag, and it's giving you energy back in your battery for free, right?
Okay.
You gain free energy at that point. And that's part of the reason that the virtual fuel tank is around in the pit stop. Now, you had to accelerate your way there, so you had to burn some fuel to get up to top speed to be able to brake. But once you're under braking, you can regain energy. The only point at which the sensors, the torque sensors in the back, are measuring for your 920 megajoules is when you're under acceleration. If you're not under acceleration, they're not measuring that number. It doesn't matter. So you can, under braking or under coasting, recharge the battery equivalently for free to that 920 megajoules.
Okay.
So there's no point in having the MGU or the battery go up to 100%. You usually probably want it at like 50 or lower going into a coast or a braking period because you want to regain as much energy as possible and put less brake wear on the brakes.
Okay.
Now,
makes sense.
If you remember, looking at turn 1, most of the big prototypes or the GTP prototypes that went in, I saw the Porsche glowing brake rotors. The others, I didn't see brake rotors.
You're right.
There's a reason for that.
There wasn't really a lot of rotors because they were using essentially the drag or the engine braking or the regeneration to help slow the car down.
Exactly. And I wonder if that's why Porsche had some issues. I don't know. It could be. In theory, that energy that's being put into the brakes is gone. It's wasted. It's wasted as heat into the air. And you would rather have that reused in your battery. Kind of interesting to think.
Very interesting to think.
This whole GTP energy management shenanigans, long story short, Acura managed it the best.
Yeah.
It seems like they did. Without a doubt. Cadillac was doing well, but not as well. You could tell when they were punching out of corners that Acura was quicker than everyone else.
Yeah.
No doubt.
The Acura was quicker. That one right there, actually.
Right. So under braking, they were doing a good job at recharging the battery and deploying that battery energy under acceleration. And I think that the efficient way to do it would be to ramp the acceleration from the beginning of accelerating out of the corner at the most down to just end to ice engine by the time you're like 2 third or fourth gear. So you want all the torque up front to accelerate the car. But once you're up to speed, you don't need much energy to stay at speed.
Correct.
Right? You need it to accelerate to speed.
Yeah.
So I bet you around there was where they had their mapping. And I suspect if other teams get a hold of the data or figure out what they were doing, that'll be the key to catching back up to them. Now, the Cadillacs had a good run at it. BMW kind of looked like they were trying to nurse the cars home from the beginning of the race, to be honest.
Yeah, they look slow.
Porsche had mechanical problems throughout the race. So
Porsche looked like they had pace, but they just didn't stay together.
The reliability, right. And they had tests at Sebring, but there's nothing like being in a real race. You'll never be able to.
And that's what everyone kept saying. Well, the Porsche just completed a 36-hour test at Sebring. Well, yes, but
that's good.
It's not a race.
It's not the same thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, the franticness of a test versus a race, totally different levels.
Right. I bet you they'll get around to it. They will, over time, get that car efficient and quick, and it'll be awesome to watch. The first outing is usually rough, though, and it was for them.
Definitely.
So, GTPs overall, Acura took the win. They looked like the fastest overall car, which is good. I suspect that by Sebring, Cadillac will be equivalently fast to them. Hopefully, BMW and Porsche can get their stuff sorted out by then. They got a lot of data off this race, I'll tell you that. And I will be more interested in watching GTP pit stops now than I ever have been, knowing that sometimes fuel is flowing into the car and sometimes it's not, which is very different.
It's very odd.
It is very, very odd. It makes sense as to why they're doing this, because they have to have that limited amount of energy throughout the stint. And the best way to measure that is from torque sensors in the back, because the rear wheels are actually what puts the power to the ground. So they're going to the source of truth at that point. But it is very odd to have this virtual fuel tank energy management from the team. Drivers are just sitting in there while the team's sort of kind of driving the car electronically. It's an interesting world we're getting into, and this is going to be going on to Le Mans and other series very soon too. So get ready.
We'll see what's going to happen. I suppose.
Overall, great Rolex.
It was a great Rolex experience.
Fantastic.
I'm very thankful to have gone. Thank you, sir, for bringing me onto the Rolex.
Yes.
So all right. That's all I got about the Rolex.
Let's move on to the upcoming races, which I think upcoming we have a race down under.
Down under.
Yes.
Thunder from down under.
We have the Bathurst 12 hours coming up.
You, baby. One of my other favorite races of the year.
It's up there with the Le Mans, Sebring, Daytona, Spa 24, Nürburgring 24, and then basically the Bathurst 12 hours.
Yeah.
Those are the big ones. Those are the big endurance races. It's kind of wild that we get a very front-loaded year in the schedule. There's Daytona, Sebring, Bathurst, all very early in the year, in the first 3 months. Specifically January, it's just crazy. But Bathurst, 12 hours coming up. I did take a look at what cars will be there. We're going to have 4 classes with 28 total cars.
Ooh.
So I don't know if that's the most they've ever had. I don't think so.
I don't think is the most.
But it's a good class. It's a good amount of cars. Classes being Pro, Pro-Am, Silver, and Invitational. Respectively, we have 8 cars in Pro, 8 cars in Pro-Am, 6 in Silver, and then 6 in Invitational.
Okay.
We have a variety of different manufacturers going, just like we did at the Rolex. Mercedes, Audi, BMW, Porsche, Lamborghini, KTM, which was not
the
like
Expo.
Rolex, right?
Yeah.
And then we have some odd ones in the Invitational. The Sin R1, which I've never heard of.
That's a sin.
But is a race car. We have a Mazda 3 themed Mark 1 V8, which I'm not. I think that's like an Australian series. I think the Mark stuff is a very Australian thing. I think it's the equivalent of like Trans Am to them. Over here.
Okay.
And then we have a Mustang that's Mark II V8.
Okay.
So a couple odd-looking cars, and then a lot of GT3 race cars from the big Mercedes, Audi, BMW, Porsche, Lamborghini, all going to be there.
I am excited for that.
Yep, should be good.
All right.
Quick note, that is an odd event because it starts at night and ends in the day.
Ooh.
Starts at like 5 or 6 a.m. their time, where it's pitch black when this race starts.
Mm-hmm.
But by the first hour, the sun is risen and we're into the twilight of the morning, which is pretty awesome.
It's really, really cool. I think that's just awesome. Do you wish Sebring was that way?
No. I like that Sebring goes into the night. I like that it's unique. That Bathurst is very unique, that they start in the night and go into the day. Sebring has always been the day into the night.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I'm
That's
just
perfect.
curious, the other 12-hour, would you have preferred it to have been?
No, that'd be terrible. Then we'd have to wake up at 3 a.m., drive an hour and a half to the track to see the 5 a.m. start. No, that'd be rough.
It would be rough.
The Bathurst guys have to wake up so early for this race to start, if you think about it.
Those are some freaking loyal fans.
Yeah.
Now, the real question is, are they waking up or are they just not going to bed?
Ooh, that's a good question, actually.
Because if I know anything about Straya, it's that them boys down there know how to drink.
True. Very true. Awesome track as well. Race up and down the mountain. And then there's like some straightaways that are not up and down the mountain.
Yeah,
So
it's quite odd.
It's an odd track. It'd be a really hard track to set up for a car because there's long enough straightaways that you want trim on aero,
Wow.
but there's enough downforce through the cutting and like down and up the hill that you want to
Heavy
be
downforce.
Yeah, you want downforce. So I don't know. Weird setup.
To be like a race engineer there would be a freaking nightmare.
Very fun, kind of technical track up and down the mountain. Actually, it's surprisingly difficult.
There always happens to be amazing battles at Bathurst.
Right.
I'm so excited for that race.
Yep, gonna be super cool. I think you can catch it on YouTube. When is
think
it?
you're right.
Is it Saturday or? It's
For
probably
us?
Yeah, I don't know for us. It'd probably be Sunday, or maybe it's actually Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
It's gonna be Saturday for us. I think Saturday afternoon to night or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. It's Saturday night.
Yeah,
for
I
us.
think it would be. Right.
Yeah.
So, gonna be awesome. Check it out. Fantastic race.
Yeah. So, you got anything else for 171 here?
I do not.
Cool. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Let us know in the comments of this video, were you at the Rolex? And if you were, what were your thoughts? Let us know about your Rolex experience. Drop a comment there, leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you're listening on audio, send us your comments about the Rolex via social. Facebook is WeAreAuto, Instagram is WeAreAuto_, YouTube is WeAreAuto, and our website is weareauto.io, where you can go to catch some of your favorite past races. So thanks again. We'll catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.